Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Rams House podcast. My name is Raheem. I will be your host. We will always strive to bring you the best Rams news, rumors, reports, and reactions. Also, some analysis. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the page at the end of this video. Whenever you want to, you can also find me at Twitter at WTRRaw. That's again at WTRRaw. The WTR is capitalized. We have a short intro show for you today. Nothing too crazy. We are just going to kind of get into some recap of what happened last year. Like I said, nothing too much you don't already know. At this time last year, the big news in LA was the big trade, the acquisition of Matthew Stafford from Detroit. Quarterbacked the Lions for 12 years. Threw for many yards, many touchdowns. Did not win many games. Was actually 0-3 in his playoff career. It was a little bit of a controversial deal at the beginning. A lot of people felt that we gave up too much for a guy that really hadn't proven that he could be a winner. But a lot of people saw what Sean McVay saw. A lot of people saw the arm talent. A lot of people saw that clutch gene that people talk about so much. A lot of people saw the ability, his ability to move defenders and the off-angle throws and the different plays that he's able to make from the pocket. He's not really known much as a mobile guy. Does like to get out of the pocket every once in a while and fling that peel down the field. But he does most of his damage from the pocket, and he did a lot of damage this year, throwing for over 4,800 yards, 41 touchdowns. And of course, going ahead and bring home that Super Bowl for our Rams in his first year in LA, first year in a new system, first year playing for Sean McVay, who, as we saw with the previous guy, is in some cases a little bit easier to play with, in some cases not so much. But he found a way to go ahead and to get that done. Talking about the big thing with the Rams is the trades and the free agents, and I'm going to get into that. Talk a little bit about that. The next guy that I'm going to talk about is Von Miller. We made the trade for him mid-season, and he did very well for us. A lot of people thought when we brought him in, a lot of people used the term washed for him. They thought he was washed up. They thought his best days were behind him, moving a second and third for a guy who wasn't really doing much and playing for a team that really wasn't winning that many games. A lot of people thought that was a mistake, and he came around, proved us wrong. In the time that he played for us, he racked up about 5 sacks, 31 combined tackles, 12 tackles for loss, and was instrumental in our playoff run. Not just providing constant pressure on the quarterback throughout the game, but being there helping us to close games out for us like he did in Baltimore, where he got the sack that pretty much ended that one. And then of course, you can't talk about 2021 Rams if you're not talking about Odell Beckham Jr. what he was able to do. Talk about another player that people thought was washed. Everything that was going on in Cleveland was highly publicized. Of course, his father putting together and releasing that tape of Baker Mayfield at times missing him on some throws, on some third and some fourth downs, and that was a catalyst to him getting out of Cleveland. And in the middle of the season, he signed with us, and it took a minute. It took a minute for him to get integrated into the offense and for him to find his way. But once he did, we saw flashes of that old Odell. We saw flashes of the guy who he was in New York. And at the end of the season, in 8 regular season games that he played with us, he had 31 catches, 359 yards, 5 touchdowns. Of course, he was also instrumental in our playoff run. Had his first 100-yard game with us, 100-plus yard game with us in the NFC Championship game against the 49ers. Really helped propel us to the Super Bowl. And then when we got to the Super Bowl, he was having a great game, and a lot of people think that, and I'm one of those people who agree with it. Think that he was going to be the MVP had he not been injured. Those and many other moves. There was moves in the off season. We brought in we brought in Sony Michel, and every year we teams make moves to bolster their rosters and to help their Super Bowl runs. But those were the big three for us. It really helped us along with our season. We had that 7-1 stretch where we really surged and we were really looking like one of the best teams in the NFL. And then once we actually got Von and Odell We actually went on a 3-game skid. We didn't win a game in the month of November. A lot of people thought we were dead in the water. They thought, oh, it's gonna blow up. See, this is why you don't go all in for 1 year, because if it blows up in your face and now you're now you don't have any more picks, you don't have any more money, and you're stuck with this team that can't win. And so we came into December. We came into December with the buzzards circling, the vultures circling. A lot of people thinking that we were done. That we rattled off. We rattled off a win against the Cardinals in a game where we had so many people missing the COVID. Whitworth and Jalen Ramsey are the big names that stick out. We had to go into Arizona on Monday night at a time when they were surging, and we were able to find a way to get a win in that situation. And then of course, 5 days later, turning around and coming back to LA, playing the Seattle Seahawks on a Tuesday night, narrowly escaping there. We found ourselves a little bit in that after November, in that December run. We found ourselves, the teams that we beat weren't the greatest outside of the Cardinals. But we found some toughness. This team found some grit. This team found a way to power itself through some adversity, and that really propelled us into the postseason. Even though we lost the last game of the regular season, a nail biter to the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, Matthew Stafford throwing that interception to Amber Thomas to end it, and that was actually what let them in to the Super Bowl. I mean, into the playoffs. I think that also lit a fire up under the team. And helped propel us to our Super Bowl win, but I'll get more on that in a minute. We came back to LA. Actually, we didn't come back to LA. We were already in LA. That Week 18 game was in LA, but we opened up the postseason in LA at SoFi Stadium against the Arizona Cardinals in a game where I truly believe, no offense to all the Arizona Cardinals fans out there, but I truly believe that we took them out of that game mentally and emotionally. From the outset, that in my opinion, they were never really in a position to win that game, and we went ahead and took care of business, 34-11 there. Then we went on to Tampa Bay, and we were throttling them in the first half. We scored a touchdown at the beginning of the third, and it really looked like we were just getting ready to blow them out of the water. But some crazy things happened. We had 2 second half fumbles. Tom Brady. Talk enough about that guy, man. You give him a chance. Excuse my French. You fuck around too many times, and you will find out with Tom Brady. And we fucked around in that game, and he went ahead and brought them back. And if it weren't for Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and their contributions at the end of that game, who knows what the story about this season is. We were able to escape Tampa Bay, get out of there with the win, come back home, and have an opportunity to come back to SoFi Stadium to play for the Super Bowl. We had that opportunity to do that against our old arch rival, the San Francisco 49ers, who had not only beaten us twice this year, but had done the same in the previous 2 years. They came into that game with a lot of energy, with a lot of fire, with a lot of motivation. Their fans did the same. The amount of San Francisco 49er fans that made the trip to SoFi Stadium that day has been highly publicized. I was at that game. There were a lot of 49ers fans there. They like to go with the narrative that they took over the stadium, and it was 60 to 70% of them. If if those are the kinds of things that you want to believe, I don't really know. I don't really pay attention to all that kind of things. But there were definitely a lot of Niner fans there. And it was definitely loud at some times when there were some other fan bases there where it would not have been that loud. But in the end, even though we had a 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter, we were able to find a way to come back in that game. And of course, Aaron coming in there and getting to Jimmy Garoppolo, forcing him to throw an errant underhanded pass. Travin Howard getting to it, intercepting it. Finally beating the San Francisco 49ers after 3 years of them beating us in just about every way that you can imagine. And Aaron taking off his helmet and saying, this is my city, this is my city. That one felt really good, and especially to be in the building for that one. That was an amazing moment. that was, whew, I just I get chills thinking about thinking about how crazy that game was and that atmosphere and all the emotion and everything that was behind it. That was a great moment. And then 2 weeks later, we were right back at SoFi against an unfamiliar opponent in the Cincinnati Bengals, who a lot of people really said the Bengals didn't deserve to be there, but this was not your granddaddy Bengals. This was not the Bungles. This was a team that was young. Their core was young, but they had some very good veteran players. This was a team that was good all around. They gave us everything they had in that game. Their defensive line really controlled our run game, when a lot of the publicity about that game was about how our defensive line was going to control the game. And in the end, our defensive line did set the tone and was a humongous reason in us winning that game. But I was really surprised about what their defensive line was able to do to us. And so at the end of that, we were able to, Matthew Stafford and that drive, that drive at the end of the game, the no look pass, to Cup. Cup really wasn't doing much that entire game. After Odell went down, they really did a good job, the Bengals, of rolling coverages to his side and really taking him out of the game. And they forced us, in terms of our offense, to do some things that were a little bit unorthodox and some things that we normally do not do. And we had to adjust, but finally, McVay just went to Stafford and Cup and said, "Hey, I need you guys to find each other, and I need you guys to go out there and bring me a Lombardi." And they were able to on that drive. They connected 4 times for over 40 yards, and of course, what ended up being the game-winning touchdown. And then defense, Aaron Donald, once again, you say his name so many times when you talk about Rams victories over the years. He was able to not just on the last play of the game, but on the third down before, while being blocked, while being double teamed, to find a way with one arm to keep Samaje Perine from converting that third down and giving them a better opportunity of winning that game. And then of course on the fourth down, getting to Joe Burrow before he has a chance to find someone else to convert on fourth down, and bringing the Rams our second Super Bowl, the first for the Los Angeles Rams, but the second for the franchise overall. Our first being, of course, in 2000 in St. Louis. That's the 2021 season in a nutshell. So many highs, some lows, some amazing moments, some that I'll never forget. I was really glad that I was able to witness this one firsthand. I'm just old enough to have witnessed the Rams' first Super Bowl, but I do not really remember too much about the game, and I definitely don't remember anything about the season that led up to it. But this one I remember, and I'm so grateful that I was able to. Again, just all the amazing, all the highlights, the roller coaster feel of this season. The times where it didn't, it wasn't really looking all that good, and the times where we were trying to tell people, yeah, hey, this is getting ready to happen, and they didn't want to believe us. And now being able to sit here throughout this summer and being able to say, we told y'all, man. We told y'all. Vindication for everyone. Vindication for everyone involved. Vindication for Les Snead and Sean McVay for their team building and their team philosophy and the way that they like to do things. We're not the first team in sports history to bring in a bunch of star players and some veterans and put together a championship team. We're not the first one in football to do it. As a matter of fact, the team that won the Super Bowl the year before us used a very similar function. They brought in Tom Brady. They brought in Antonio Brown. They brought in some other pieces, but they had a good core to start with, and they were able to bring in the important pieces that mattered, and that ended up being the difference for them. And the Tampa Bay Bucks ended up winning the Super Bowl in 2020. We did something a little bit similar, different in some ways, but had a lot of similarities to what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did. And it was a little bit, it's, in my opinion, it's been a little bit less, not as well received as when the Tampa Bay Bucks did it. I don't know, maybe it's just kind of like that beat LA aura that the city and its teams have around it. That maybe, I don't know, maybe it's when Los Angeles teams do things. Maybe it's just not the right way. But getting getting back into progressing on, moving on into the off season. Everything likes to say that they are the defending champions. The fact of the matter is that each year is a new year. Every team, they're losing players, they're gaining players. Players are retiring, players are getting drafted, players are changing positions. Sometimes new coaches are brought in. Every year is different. And teams that have won back-to-back Super Bowls in NFL history, they found a way to take the successes from the year before and find a way to make that translate. Not just saying we're going to be the best, but finding out what worked the year before, what can actually be taken over, what needs to be tweaked, where we need to get better at. And we've had a lot of opportunity this year. We've lost some pieces, we've lost some starters. Most famously, Andrew Whitworth retiring, forcing Joseph Noteboom to step up in his presence. Anytime you're losing, my opinion is that Andrew Whitworth is a Hall of Fame left tackle. I don't believe he'll get in on the first ballot, but I definitely, when you think of the totality of his career, how long he played and how well he played for how long, he was still playing at a very high, almost all pro level up until his final season in the NFL. I believe he will be a Hall of Famer someday. I don't know that it's first ballot. But my point to say is that there's definitely going to be a drop in production from whoever you're replacing him with, and then Austin Corbett moving and creating a hole at right guard for us. Then we lost Darius Williams from our defense, of course. We lost Von Miller. We lost some other pieces on defense. Troy Reeder, Eric Weddle, who I forgot to talk about him earlier, and what he did and how his contributions and what his experience and wisdom and leadership brought to this team. We won't have him this year. But we got somebody else who will bring in some of that. We lost Sebastian Joseph Day to the Chargers, who I believe that's an excellent pickup for them. He may not have been a true starter for the Rams, and he may not even be a starter for the Chargers. I have to look at their roster and see what that looks like. But he missed most of last season, but he was there during our 2020 season when the defense was the number one in the NFL. He can be a vital piece to a championship defense. Rams fans, we're going to miss him, and I think Chargers fans are going to fall in love with him pretty quickly. So you look at you look at what you lost and you say, some of that I can replace, some of that I can get better at, some of that there will be some question marks, and you go together and now you start putting back pieces of what you hope is a championship puzzle. One of the big pieces of that championship puzzle that we brought in will be, we believe, will be Allen Robinson from the Chicago Bears. Greatly publicized last year. He had a down year, but the 2 years before that, he had 90 catches and 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, both for some quarterbacks that really aren't all that good in an offensive system that's not very friendly to its skill position players. Matt Nagy being the former offensive mind in Chicago, him being out, Matt Eberflus taking over. Allen Robinson, you look at some of the injury history that he's had, and you look at the year that he had in 2021, and you say that maybe it's possible that he's on a downswing. And even if that is true, I believe that he's still coming into the best situation that he's ever been in the league. He's playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with. He's going to be playing for the best coach he's ever played with. He's going to be playing with the best team that he's ever played with, and with, I believe, the best medical staff that he's ever played with. All of that is going to combine to get him right, to getting him back to a player that many people thought was one of the best wide receivers in the league. I believe that at the end of this year, we're going to talk about him being one of the best wide receiver twos in the NFL. I really, truly do believe that. And we're going to go to the other side of the ball. Last year, we traded Kenny Young, who's a promising young linebacker, for us to bring in to make room to bring in Von Miller. And when we did that, they created a gigantic hole in the middle of our defense, and there were some teams that were able to exploit that. None other than the San Francisco 49ers, who the strength of their offense is really attacking weak linebackers. And with Troy Reader out there and some instability at the other position because of injuries and some other things, that area of the field was pretty much food for opposing offenses. Excuse me. When they played the Rams last year. Troy Reader is also with the Chargers now. He's gone. We replaced him with Bobby Wagner, and that is a hell of a replacement. Bobby Wagner has been one of the best inside linebackers, off-ball linebackers in the NFL. Pretty much his entire career. A lot of people like to say that he's taken a step back. He was a second-team All-Pro last year, and if you believe that taking a step back is going from first team All Pro to second team All Pro, I'll definitely take that step back. Not only that, to mention, Troy Reader was probably one of the maybe a bottom tier. I don't really want to rag on him too much. Was probably a bottom tier starting off ball linebacker in the NFL last year. He did a lot of things for us. He did some good things. He was able to be in position sometimes. He was, decent pass rusher here and there. But athletically was just a little bit limited, and that limited his ability to make plays for us. Most famously, in the divisional championship game, he actually missed a tackle against Leonard Fournette, and that's when the Buccaneers actually tied the game. A lot of people, myself included, believe that a more athletically gifted player makes that play, and we may not need Stafford and Kupp's late game heroics in that situation. We believe that Bobby Wagner talked about what having Eric Weddle on the team and the leadership and the guidance that he gave to some of these younger players on the team. We're going to have that with Bobby Wagner, and we're going to have that for an entire season. If you don't believe me, just look at what's being written about him and Ernest Jones and how much time they're spending together and how much he's helping with his development, and how much Bobby Wagner actually loves teaching and talking with Ernest Jones, and how much Ernest Jones actually loves being counseled by a player like Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner is a future Hall of Famer, and he's a perennial All-Pro player, which gives us an All-Pro player in Aaron Donald, Bobby Wagner, and Jalen Ramsey at all three levels of this defense. This defense has a potential to be special next year, very special. Excuse me. Let me get a drink of water. We also brought back Troy Hill from the Browns, so that's that's a story on that. So we of course had Troy Hill in Los Angeles for a number of years. I believe about 5 to 6. It was a little bit of a mixed bag when it came to reactions, especially from what fans thought about him. But 2020 was a nice year for him. He found a way to create a lot of turnovers and got actually a few touchdowns that year. Again, that was the year we were the number one defense in the NFL. He played star for us, so I imagine he'll compete or at least see some time at that position this year. And then of course you have the draft. Our draft, Logan Bruss, who I believe will be a very good player. And we also brought in some really good defensive backs, Quentin Lake from UCLA, Darion Kendrick, Jacoby Durant. Those guys will all compete for some time this year. Also Russ Yeast. Not sure Russ Yeast makes the squad, because of the depth situation with our safety position. But there's definitely maybe some space for some of those guys to push at the corner position. So in the end, like I said, you have a championship team. You'd love to keep all the players that you could from that championship team together, but in today's NFL, it's just not possible. With the salary cap and the way things are. Not only that, some players just want to play in other locales. Some players win a championship and feel like they don't want. Maybe feel like they want to play in a place with a little bit less pressure. Not saying that necessarily anybody on this team that was on this team that's not last year is doing that. But it's just a fact of the matter. We're in a day and age where players are on the move, um, and that's a double-edged sword because you lose some pieces from a championship team, but then you have the ability to look at the rest of the league and see some good players and bring them in, and maybe they could be part of your next championship team. And that's what we're hoping for in Los Angeles, is that the players we brought in the draft class. I'll definitely do a video on them, the draft class. There's some players that I really like, and I already mentioned Logan Bruss. I also really like Darion Kendrick and Quentin Lake, and I'll do a thorough breakdown of the draft at another time. And then you have, like I said, Troy Hill, Bobby Wagner, Allen Robinson. Those are the big three that we brought in free agency. And that's how you piece up. That's how you get ready to run it back. That's how you get ready to try to do what no team has done since the 2004 New England Patriots, and that's win consecutive Super Bowls. Our rollback is definitely going to be it's going to be hard. We have the most difficult schedule in the NFL. Super Bowl champion usually does. I think that's compounded this year by the fact that if you believe that a certain quarterback is the best quarterback in the league, we play him this year, no matter who that guy is, whether it's Allen, whether it's Mahomes, whether it's Rodgers, whether it's Brady. This defense, like I said, I believe this defense is going to be special. It's going to get tested this year. This team is going to get tested. We're going to get every team's best shot. Every team wants to beat the defending Super Bowl champions. I know Buffalo is going to come in there week one highly motivated, especially after what happened to them, losing the way they did, that heartbreaker of a game against Kansas City, which that was a great game. And to lose that way, I can imagine that they're going to be very angry, very fired up, very motivated to put our head on their mantelpiece and say, hey, the rest of the NFL should be afraid of us. We look at it that the rest of the NFL should be afraid of us too, so we're very motivated for that game. It's a long off season. I'm glad I got us caught up to where we are right now. June is actually we're in July now. It's July 1st. But this time of year is real slow. There's not a lot of news this time. I will try to bring you guys some content, as much content as I can. But it's gonna be slow. It's gonna be slow and slim till training camp starts. This has been real fun. I'm hoping to grow this channel. I'm hoping to interact with you guys. I'm hoping to bring you guys the absolute best content as I can. Like I said at the beginning of the show, go ahead and give me a subscription. I'm big on interacting with the people that I talk with, and the people that I talk with, my audience. So you can always leave comments. You can reach out to me on Twitter again at WTRRaw. The WTR is capitalized. As always, man, I love talking about this game. I love doing this. Can't wait to do it again. I am wishing you guys some blue skies, some golden days. Blessings to all you guys. Have a good day.